Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me first start by expressing my deepest condolences to the families of those who lost their lives on Saturday, and also to the families of victims of violent crimes this year. I'd also like to wish a speedy recovery to the innocent bystanders who sustained injuries. And there is no running away from the fact, Mr. Speaker, that the past few days have been particularly rough for us as a nation. And we cannot allow this situation to go unchecked or unabated, Mr. Speaker. We cannot allow a few individuals who have lost all respect for life to think that they can control the streets of St. Lucia. And whilst I say that, Mr. Speaker, I think it is important that I commend the men and women of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. I want to commend them for their swift action, which led to several arrests happening over the weekend. But, Mr. Speaker, arresting after the fact is not enough. We must act decisively in order to prevent, in order to detect, and in order to intercept criminal activity before it actually occurs. And as I have the floor, I want to reassure St. Lucians that as a government, we will not rest, we will not cower, we will not give in to the playbook of criminals, and that we will do everything that we can, as you would have heard the Prime Minister alluded to earlier, to ensure that the safety and security of St. Lucians are maintained and given priority. Mr. Speaker, as a government, we have taken steps legislatively and otherwise to help deal with this crime situation that we are faced with in this country. We came here and we made amendments to the Firearms Act to ensure that we stiffen the penalties for firearms or firearm-related offenses. And that is because we realized that there was a problem, Mr. Speaker. We came here and we debated the suppression of escalated crime. We debated that act as well, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we also debated the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Act. And also, we made amendments to the Child Justice Act. And if you take a closer look at the amendments that were made, Mr. Speaker, to the various acts which I mentioned, it was to send a message, to send a signal, to show the action that we are taking as a government to help fight this crime situation. Mr. Speaker, you heard the Prime Minister speak about the resources, and he mentioned that tomorrow, again, we will be giving the police some more resources. And as he rightfully said, our job as a government, as an administration, is to provide policy direction. And it is not to get involved in the operational matters of policing. And I would understand why, in a time like now, that people believe, or some people rather, believe that we should get involved in the operational matters of policing. Because not too long ago, you would remember that some people treated the police force like it belonged to them, notwithstanding that their role was that of policymaker. And they had almost an intimate hand in the running of the police force. So having done it, it has become an expectation that the government of the day will do similar, that they too will go and interfere in the operational matters of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. And I agree and stand with the Prime Minister on this position that the operational matters of the police force realize it sits within the remits of the Commissioner of Police. And as policymakers, we will not come and tell the Commissioner who to send on Chaussee Road, how many vehicles to allocate to a particular police station. That is not our job. You look at the programs, Mr. Speaker. At SSDF, we have our Boys Matter program. And I think it's important that we reinforce some of what, or that I reinforce some of what the Prime Minister has said. Because when you hear some people speak, when you hear some people who try to tell you, on one hand, that we should not politicize crime, but when you take a closer look at the conversation that they have, when you listen to the remarks that they make, you ask yourself whether or not they are true to their words when they say that we should not politicize this crime situation. We have programs, we've established numerous programs, Mr. Speaker. When you look at what the probation and parole units are doing now, you realize that we've made serious progress as a government in terms of some of the programs that we put in place to deal with the rehabilitation component. Mr. Speaker, you would have heard the Prime Minister speak about USAID providing us with some assistance, and we all know the time came when there was a stop work program order that was placed and all funding from the USAID ceased. You would think then, notwithstanding that we did not have a budgetary allocation to deal with that shortfall, that we probably would just allow the programs to fall on the wayside. But no, the Prime Minister's commitment came to the fore once again. And what did he do? He ensured that he funded the program. I know that people like Priskilash and Dr. King and those people involved in the Ubuntu movement in Vieux-Fort can tell you that they are very pleased with the level of support that they have received from this administration. We continue to fund programs. And as the Prime Minister said again, when you deal with crime prevention, given the complexity of crime and crime prevention, Mr. Speaker, we agreed to bring in a research officer in that of Dr. Montel Felix. We brought him to the department, and I must commend him for the work that he has started. He has started working with other agencies to try to put together a unit, and he has also started putting together a crime prevention strategy whilst working with the Commissioner of Police and other stakeholders involved, the private sector and all other stakeholders involved. So, Mr. Speaker, to make it seem like this administration has done absolutely nothing when it comes to crime fighting, I think is totally false. I think that it is playing games, and when I sit, I ask myself, when you look at what this Prime Minister has done to combat the crime situation, and I'm not saying that everything that we've done has worked. I agree that there are gaps that needs to be filled. There are gaps that needs to be closed. But when you look at what this Prime Minister has done, what he has pumped into crime fighting, vis-a-vis those individuals who, I don't want to say that they had balls and parties to raise funds for the police, but you look at when they were in, although we're not into the business of comparing, but when they were in government, Mr. Speaker, you ask yourself what, and I think today provides them with a perfect opportunity to say to St. Lucia, this is what I did when I was Prime Minister, or when I was, or this is what my minister at the time did to help combat the crime situation. We did X, Y, and Z, and this worked, this did not work. It's a perfect opportunity today to tell St. Lucia what it is that your administration did during your time. Because we are not afraid to say the steps that we are taking. We are not afraid to speak about the social intervention measures that we've undertaken as an administration. And we're not afraid to say that we believe that there is still a lot more that needs to be done. We're never going to run away from the fact that there is work that needs to be done in order for us to get where we want to get. Mr. Speaker, today we are here to debate another important tool in our fight against crime, the CARICOM arrest warrant bill. And I want to say that I stand in full support of this piece of legislation. And I think if dealt with properly, if implemented well, that this can be more than just a bill. It can really serve as a layer of protection, as a shield for our people and for our region. Too often, we see fugitives exploit gaps in our extradition system, slipping from one jurisdiction to another and mocking the very idea of justice. We have a situation where we see organized crimes and organized crime networks, Mr. Speaker, and we have organized crime syndicates that are already treating our borders as if they were irrelevant. They traffic drugs, they traffic firearms, and they do that with a certain degree of ease. And when one state moves against them, what do? They simply cross and go across to another. And just given our very nature, Mr. Speaker, surrounded by water, a stone throw away, you have Barbados, you have Martinique, you have St. Vincent, you have Dominica. It is very easy. I mean, gone are the days when people use canoe. We have guys now with 200s and 300s behind their boats, and within minutes they can find themselves anywhere between Dominica, St. Vincent, Grenada. And that is the harsh reality that we have to deal with. These are some of the things that really make fighting crime a bit more complex and difficult. Mr. Speaker, what happened on Saturday, and we operate in a time where we see criminals becoming more emboldened. What happened on Saturday, broad daylight shooting in a crowded city, is proof that indeed our criminals are getting emboldened. And if we do not respond with equal boldness and coordination, we give them the upper hand. And as a government, I can tell you, we will never allow criminals to have the upper hand in this country. Never. Mr. Speaker, there are gaps in our systems. And the transnational nature of crime can make it very difficult to curb this entire crime situation. What this CARICOM arrest warrant bill intends to do is to close some of these gaps. It does so by establishing a single unified legal framework for the arrest and surrender of fugitives across CARICOM. With one warrant recognized by all member states, we remove the safe havens and the needless delays. Mr. Speaker, this bill really tries to close some of these loopholes, tries to strengthen the trust in our justice system, and try to create an environment where our courts and law enforcement deliver swift justice and fair justice. Passing this bill today sends a clear message across the Caribbean that there will be no refuge for those who run from the law. But Mr. Speaker, we must also confront a troubling reality within our justice system. Too often, and I say that because I feel the plight of the police. Too often we see the police rearrest individuals who are already on bail for firearm offenses, only to see them reoffend within days or weeks, and most times even more serious offenses like murder. And as we speak, we are grappling with instances of this nature in St. Lucia right now. And I've said it before, it is demotivating for a policeman to leave his family at home, put his life at risk, to go out there, pursue criminals, arrest them. And I don't know, Mr. Speaker, I won't point fingers. And I'm being very careful because the Attorney General is here, so I'm very careful who I point my fingers at. But I think it's very unfair that when the police put in all that hard work, I don't know if it is on the part of the prosecution or if it is on the part of the judiciary, that we see individuals who are caught with firearms or ammunition. Within 2 or 3 days of them being arrested, we see them back in the streets. And I don't think that we are sending the right message. And when we, as parliamentarians, when we, as an executive, come to the House to make an amendment to the Firearms Act, Mr. Speaker, it is not to dictate to the judiciary how to do their work, but it should signal the intention of the people. Because when we come here, it is not, we don't just wake up on a morning and decide that we're going to give or make firearm penalties stiffer. That is after consultation, that is after discussion, that is after getting pressure from those men and women, those young people whom we represent. We make a decision and a determination to come to the House and to make amendments. And those individuals who have the responsibility to administer the laws, as I said, we will not tell them how to do their work, but the signal that is out there is not the best one. And too often, we see individuals within days after being caught with a firearm roaming the streets again. And it is not motivating for the police, because you can give the police all the resources that you give them. You can give them everything under the sun. If after they do the hard work, part of the reward is not always monetary. The reward is seeing value in the work that you do by ensuring that sometimes you're able to, I know it is not the police job to secure conviction, but if you do the hard work, if you cross your T's and you dot your I's, you expect there's an anticipated result in the end. So, having said that, Mr. Speaker, I'm hoping that moving forward, Mr. Speaker, we can see the laws being administered in a way that signals the intention of the executive. Mr. Speaker, let me just run through quickly 6 reasons why we should support this bill. I think this bill, if dealt with properly, and although I think currently Guyana might be the only other country at this stage, and I think other member states should take a page from our books and from what is happening here today to ensure that they hasten to do their part. But if this bill is administered properly, Mr. Speaker, I think the current extradition process, which is slow and overly formalistic, it can help make it faster and more reliable. We can have faster and more reliable transfers. This bill also introduces a single warrant which is recognized across the CARICOM, streamlining procedures and enabling swift, effective transfers. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, it can disrupt organized crime. Gangs and traffickers, what they do is they exploit legal inconsistencies to operate across borders. The bill tends to shut down these escape routes, ensuring that no one escapes justice by simply crossing from one island to the other. It can also help strengthen regional security cooperation. As we speak, we already share intelligence through CARICOM bodies like IMPACTS, JRCC, RSS, among others. But intelligence without the legal force is really limited. So this bill ensures that intelligence translates into arrests and prosecutions. It also works well, Mr. Speaker, to protect citizens and restore confidence. When victims see offenders flee to another island, and we see that happening very often in this region, Mr. Speaker, where individuals come from island to island, almost like when you do bar hopping, they do island hopping. And when victims see offenders flee to other islands, it really erodes trust in the justice system. And this bill restores confidence by ensuring justice follows fugitives within the CARICOM region, wherever they go. It also safeguards the rights and provides some sort of judicial oversight. The courts will remain central. Warrants are still subject to judicial review, appeal, and to also legal counsel. And what the bill does, it speeds up justice without undermining human rights. And, Mr. Speaker, the 6th reason is, I think, it gives us an opportunity to build on proven international practice. In the EU, we can find a clear example of how shared arrest warrant systems can function effectively, and their experience shows that a coordinated legal framework allows for faster prosecutions. It reduces the numbers of fugitives at large and strengthens public confidence in the justice system. So by creating a single warrant, it recognized across member states, the EU has minimized delays, it has closed loopholes and ensured that criminals cannot evade justice by simply crossing the borders. And the Caribbean really stands to gain, well, more importantly, the CARICOM really stands to gain from a model that has already been tried and tested and refined. And I think we can do our own tweaking and tweaking to it, but there is an example of a warrant of that nature, Mr. Speaker, and it is working for the EU. Mr. Speaker, why St. Lucia cannot afford to delay and wait any longer? And as Prime Minister would have said, in 2017, treaty was signed. However, given what is happening now, and given the urgency of now, and our geography really makes it a prime target for traffickers and organized crime networks. You have offenders from St. Lucia who flee to neighboring islands, and you also have foreign elements who come here to use as safe havens. Criminals move faster than our outdated legal processes. This bill gives our police and courts the authority to almost match that type of mobility. And security, Mr. Speaker, as we all know, it really underpins economic stability. And as a small and vulnerable state, small and vulnerable economy that depend on tourism, Mr. Speaker, we can no longer, tourism and investment, we can no longer allow the situation to go the way that it is going now. Also, Mr. Speaker, we operate in a time where I think Barbados, St. Vincent, I think Dominica and Belize, as of the 1st of October, they're going to be having free movement among these island states. And having said that, Mr. Speaker, it makes it even easier for individuals to move from island to island. So having passed such a bill at this time, I think is opportune and makes it even easier for law enforcement to deal with criminal elements, notwithstanding the fact that they may move from one place to another. And they may have some concerns and safeguards, Mr. Speaker. Some people worry about when you hear words like CARICOM or you hear words like treaty, people always question sovereignty, whether or not you're giving up any degree of your sovereignty. But I'm happy that this bill ensures that judicial authority remains intact. The bill only speeds up the process. It does not diminish national control. And again, Prime Minister would have made it clear that it ensures that there is no political misuse. Warrants can only be issued by competent judicial authorities, not by politicians, so there is a safeguard in that regard. And human rights will be fully preserved. Suspects retain access to legal representation, they can appeal, and they can do proportionality checks. So in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I think the CARICOM warrant arrest bill directly addresses one of the greatest weaknesses in our regional justice system, and that is criminals exploiting borders to escape accountability. So by passing this bill, I think we close some of these loopholes, we strengthen public trust, and we send a clear signal to organized crime networks that mobility will not equal immunity. So, and I know more than that, in September we might be coming back to the House to deal with the gang legislation, which I think at a time is very necessary, and I look forward to when AG presents this bill in this honorable House. So, Mr. Speaker, I think that this is a decisive step in making St. Lucia and the wider Caribbean safer, and it is a declaration that justice in our region is united, swift, and uncompromising. So with these few words, Mr. Speaker, I thank you and I urge members to support this bill.